Good morning, Stampers. Thank you for joining us with our share fair today. I'm Nancy Reynolds. I live in Bellingham, Washington, which is in the Pacific Northwest corner of the United States, up close to the Canadian border. My project for today is the Tower card using the amazing Hydrangea Hill suite. It's found in the January to June mini catalog. And I'm going to put us right down on the table so we can get started. I want to talk a little about the metric measurements and the imperial measurements and show you how I cut the card base because that's the important part. So here we go. So here's my card. You'll see the, I love this hydrangea. I love the paper. The colors are perfect. So let me just set it aside. Oh, it does stand up. It does fit in the envelope, which is a good thing. I'll just set it over to the corner. Hi, it's good to see you. I see 3 people watching. The Switcher Studio doesn't show the names of commenters, and I apologize for that. I will come back and answer everybody's questions. But I told you that I loved the Designer Series paper, or DSP. This is the Hydrangea Hill. It's in the January to June catalog, and it's not carrying through. But I just think it's so beautiful. And look at all those colors. I mean, these are my colors. So no wonder I love the set. I like the stamps. The die cuts, the hydrangea dies are wonderful. I appreciate all the little things you do. You make me smile. And this flower. And this flower, I'm going to color it in using the stamp that comes in the set. For the dies, I used Mossy Meadow, and I cut out the large flower, and then I cut off the head, because we all know hydrangeas don't come in Mossy Meadow. Then I cut out in the Gorgeous Grape the detailed die. I cut out the detailed leaf in a green, and this is what I stamped used to cut out my little sentiment for the front. So let's put that aside. I do want to show you one of the dies. This strip of dies is amazing because it cuts out a lot of little flowers, a lot of petals. So I'll show you how I use those and what I cut them out of in a moment. Now, last night I was having some trouble with the metric measurements. What I realized is that when I cut my cardstock down, I cut it down to a metric size almost, not the height, because half a cardstock in A4 is much bigger than ours, is taller. Ours is fatter and shorter, yours is taller and thinner. But it did come out to almost the exact size of width. So what I did is I just went with it. I don't have an envelope the size that it should fit in. It might be a little bit too wide, but it would just be taking off a couple of centimeters. And I think that could be done pretty easily. So 21 centimeters by 14.9. I scored it at, you score parallel to the short side. So I scored it at 2.5 and 5. Let me get mine out. Let's just make sure. Yes, my score lines went 2.5, 5, and 7.5, I believe, is the way I did it. I just went over an inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, and multiplied that out. And then I cut it. When I cut, I turned it this way, and I cut 2.5 and 5 on top and bottom. I turned it this way, and I cut. So you might want to mock up this up on like typing paper or scratch paper, and then make sure it fits in your envelope. I tried. That's all I can say is I tried. So let's go with the imperial measurements. And I have, let's see, I want you to be able to see this while I'm talking. So maybe if I put this here and pull this down a little bit. This is 8.5 by 5.5 is our normal size. I cut the width down to 8 1/8. And parallel to the short sides, I scored at 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches. Then I turned it, and I did the very same thing, 1 inch, 2 inch, and 3 inches. Next, I needed to do some cutting. So I turned it parallel on my cutter, parallel to the long side, and I cut that 1 inch score line and the 3 inch score line. I sliced it and at 7/8 inch and then 1 7/8 inch. So I sliced them both, top and bottom. My next step would be to turn it around and do it on this side. So you're just cutting these two areas on each side. Which leaves us with this. Now, one might wonder, what does one do with this? You take and fold up the bottom, the sides. The 3 inch mark, you fold down. And you are going to use your bone folder a lot because you want good score lines on those two especially. So let me reinforce some score lines. A little burnishing here. Now, this 2 inch score line is going to have a split personality. Some of it's going up and some of it's going down. There we go. The top and the bottom and the middle are going up. The others are going in. And again, let's burnish those because when you're doing a fun fold, it's really important to have good score lines, good solid score lines. So again, the top goes out, the middle goes out, and I kind of used my finger just to make sure it was going correctly. And burnish. This is the hard part of the card. And that wasn't even very hard, was it? What we're going to do is start putting on, well, actually I found it a little easier to do the stamping and put on my centerpiece first. And I did not put DSP on the back and realized that was a mistake. So I've cut a couple strips of DSP to put on this, our card we're making today. Here's the Stamparatus. As you've seen, we've all had some great tips on using the Stamparatus. Mine is a pretty simple stamping. It's not, you could repeat it over and over if you're doing multiples, and it would make life very easy for you. But basically, I just wanted to make sure that my sentiment on the top and my flower on the bottom lined up and fit on the stamp. And the Stamparatus is great for that. This piece of paper is 2 inches by 5 1/4 inches. And I wish I had a little spot because it would be much easier to ink this up if I had the spot. Someone else loves purple. It is my favorite. And thank you for whoever said it was a very pretty card. I know, these are just my colors. I got so excited when I saw this in the catalog. Okay, I'm just going to tap, tap, tap. Get that inked up. The nice thing is, if I somehow make a mistake and make a mess, which, let's face it, has been known to happen, I have my inky little rag, or my wet little rag, to catch the ink. Oops. Got caught up on my phone cord there. And I can put this down. Oh, I didn't get all the ink off. It does take a little pressing, maybe a little back rub for here. I'm sorry if the table is wiggling. There we are, almost. I saw somebody who had like made a pusher. It was, I think they used one of those dry erase board to take that off. Eraser. A dry erase board eraser. And she just went over it with that, and she said she got much better pressure. Some of us have arthritis in our hands, and it's harder to do. There's still a little room to write, see? Notice? Good idea. I'm going to put this aside, and I will wash it as soon as I'm done. I am going to use seal, and I'm going to grab my, oh, we have one more thing to do. I almost forgot to color my flowers. So here we go. Put this out of the way. I've got my stamp pad, and this is Gorgeous Grape. I don't want it to be as dark as this, so I am going to tap, 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 get some ink on, stamp off, and as you know, with our photopolymer stamps, we really want to use a cushion to stamp on, something with some cush. So here we go. Press it down, let the ink transfer, and there we are. Colored flowers. Now that could not get any easier. You should use a foam mat with your photopolymer stamps, yes. And I actually didn't show you, but I have the black foam mat already in my Stamparatus and my grid paper on top of it. And I'm using the Stampin' Pierce mat for my foam mat for this stamping. Good point. Oh, thank you. My fingernails do match today. Oh, well, okay. I use purple a lot and I wear purple a lot, so I guess I can't say I actually planned that. Last time I stamped with my seal, I did not leave it in the right position. One of the things with seal, and I really do like it, it's a great adhesive, is you want to break that adhesive off at the top, not let it pull out lower down. Then it will always be ready to use. See? Like that. I'm going to put my and I would probably write on this if I knew who I was giving it to beforehand, because it would be a little easier. Now, we're going to need some DSP for Designer Series paper. I've cut 4 long strips. Because I was using scraps, so they're 4 inches. No, they're 7/8 inch by 5 3/8 inch. And I will convert that for the measurements. I have 2 that are verticals again, because I was using scraps. So I'm going to use these on the back side because I wanted the horizontal stripes on the front. I think I'm going to pull in the Tombow, because Tombow gives you wiggle room, our multi-purpose glue, and I like that. I'm not always perfectly aligned. I do store it in a container that stores it upside down. I've seen some really cute ones that were made. This one was made on a digital printer. I ordered it from someone I heard about. Just as long as it's upside down, the glue is right there where you really want to use it. Let me give a little glue on this. And I find storing it upside down is I leave the cap off while I'm using it. It doesn't seem to clog up and it doesn't seem to drip. In other words, I make less of a mess. And believe me, I can make a big enough mess without any help from a glue bottle helping me. Okay, the back is done. And this is how it will look from the back when you put it in your envelope. We'll turn it over. And it was very simple to put the Designer Series paper strips on. These again are the same size as the others. Because you might need to metric to adjust the size of your card and make it just a little smaller to fit in the envelope, a little not as wide, you might just want to take a couple centimeters off this width. Your length should be fine. So perhaps leaving the metric for this off is not a bad idea, because you're going to measure and just adjust. So here we go, one on each side. I've got strips across the top. Let's see. And that just leaves the focal point to make. The good news is, I'll just show you how I did my flower. I have 3 pieces. I've got black, and it is, 3 1/4 square. I have a pretty piece of DSP that unfortunately is 3 inches square, but it's not really going to show much. Then I have white, which is 2 3/4 by 2 3/4 square. And I am just going to take my glue, and this is just straight gluing and attaching. And again, a little wiggle room. Doesn't take much glue. I'm going to pop this on. I'm going to pop this on the card. Right here in, oh, I should have been a bit more careful where the glue went. Let me see if I can remove some of that glue. I was hurrying along and wasn't thinking. So maybe I'll use seal. And I'm just going to put some seal in the middle. There we go. So here's our card from, that's from the front. And then it's just putting on, I'm going to just dump all these out. Putting the sentiment on. I appreciate all the little things you do. I like stitching. I think that's kind of fun, so I like that die. Here is my large from the big flower I cut off, and then I cut off the flower head. I'm going to glue this on here eventually. I cut out from, so I also like to stamp on designer series paper. I've heard others say that. I used this designer series paper for my little sentiment. And I used another designer series paper, the same as I used for the flower head. I used for little petals. And I told you I'd show you, there's all these little petals that you cut out from that die. And then I just take them in my hand, and I take the tip of my bone folder and squeeze them to give them some nice dimension. I'm trying to learn from Sandra and Jackie that I could do this a lot easier if I would use a pair of tweezers. And this is something that I did. I just found it very relaxing just to sit and glue on these little flower petals because it gives it so much dimension. I have one finished for us, and I just glued flat because I think this card has enough dimension, and I really do want it to go through the mail. Now the only thing missing, and I haven't glued this down, is pearls. And when I started putting pearls on, I thought, oh, 2, 3 pearls here and there, that'll be fine. And before I knew it, I had a pearl in almost every center. And I just had fun. Let's see. Let me hold this up so you can see the pearls. For me, this was just a fun, relaxing card to make. I hope you've enjoyed it. It looks like from your comments that you might be enjoying it. I want to thank you for watching, and make sure that you follow up with your demonstrator, the one who invited you to the group, to place your order and take advantage of our show special. And I hope that you have gotten as much inspiration from the cards as I have that everyone's making. They're just beautiful. Next up is Carol Keller, and she's going to use Friends Are Like Seashells, and I'm looking forward to hers. So thanks again for joining us, and happy stamping.